Hello, I'm Luke Hatfield. You join me and Wolves correspondent Joe Edwards. Joe, Wolves face Burnley this weekend. Always a tough nut to crack. How was the mood in the camp?
Pretty good. After beating Chelsea and coming from behind in the way that they did, mood is high. I mean, it was a much needed win, wasn't it? Of course, it addressed the kind of slide that they were going through and a tough December, but they've got a good win under their belt and can take confidence into Turf Moor now. And it's a result, I guess, on paper that you would expect Wolves to get, but Turf Moor, never an easy place to go to. Wolves haven't won there actually since 2010 and have struggled there in recent years. So we know what Burnley are about, don't we? I mean, we saw them against Villa the other day. They faced, 27 shots and they still kept a point. So they're resilient, aren't they? They'll set up defensively. They'll pump balls into the box. They'll be physical. And there'll be a test. So the thing is for Wolves is taking what they did against Chelsea and looking to reapply it against Burnley and hopefully keep up the momentum now.
Yeah, that's it. Of course, Burnley coming off that game against Villa. I think a lot of people who watched that game will have said that's a traditional Burnley performance. That's going to be the task for Wolves, isn't it? Breaking that Claret's back line down, and they're going to, of course, have to do it without Raul Jimenez still. Obviously, a long way until, and we'll see him back on the pitch, we think. That's the question, isn't it? Daniel Podence, Pedro Neto, those are the big names who have been doing the business for Wolves. Can they do it against Burnley?
You hope so, because they're the two key men, aren't they? They're the superstars. Sorry, the man of the moments, and they're the ones who are the match winners really for Wolves at the minute. We saw it against Chelsea, and if Wolves are to do anything, it's probably going to be through them. Adama Traore hasn't really been at it recently. Fabio Silva's still feeling his way in. I think he's actually done all right, but he's ultimately an 18-year-old lad. So the onus falls on Neto and Podence to get the goals, and they're going to be, roughed up, I guess, a bit more by Burnley. They're a streetwise team. They're, as we say, physical. They've got some big players, haven't they? At the back and in midfield. So it'll be a good test for Neto and Podence, and hopefully one that they stand up to and are able to show their quality again.
I suppose the question a lot of Wolves fans will be asking is will Nuno stick with the three? Because there's been a load of debate over that this season. Of course, you offer a little bit more going forward with the four at the back. Do you think that might be a tactic which is worthwhile pursuing against Burnley, who aren't going to be as such as a threat going forward themselves?
I think the three's probably still the way to go, and I know Burnley aren't free scoring and what have you, but I think it's ultimately a system that Wolves know better. They know it like the back of their hand. They've done it every day in training for coming on 4 years, so it's only natural that they look more comfortable and better in it. Really, I think four at the back could be still used in this game and games going forward. But for me personally, I would like to see the three, and I don't think it makes a huge difference on the attacking aspect at the minute whether you're playing three at the back or four. I think if Jimenez had stayed fit, it may be a little bit different, and you might be more inclined to use the four and really go all guns blazing in attack. But I think at the minute, a 3-4-3 kind of works well. I think they look a lot more defensively solid, and that's going to come into the equation at Burnley as well. You mentioned they're not free scoring, they're not the most attacking side, but you'll need bodies in the box to compete against the likes of Chris Wood and the players that they've got that want to come up for corners and make themselves known from set pieces. And somebody like Nelson Semedo, who hasn't exactly set the world alight as of yet, I'd fancy him more so with three centre halves to support him instead of in a four up against somebody like Dwight McNeil. So I do feel three is still probably the way to go, while Wolves look to build momentum, and then further down the line when they've got a bit more time in training, a bit of a break. But this Christmas period when games are coming thick and fast, I'm just leaning towards sticking to what you know, really.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it there. That the big thing for Burnley, of course, set pieces, corner kicks. It's vital for Wolves that they make sure that they're defending those set pieces well. Someone who they need fit and back on form really is Willy Bolly, and there's question marks there. There's question marks on Leander Dendoncker, another physical presence. What's the update on them?
So Bolly, I mean, we got the performance aspect from him, didn't we, against Chelsea? I mean, he's a player that hasn't really exactly been at his best so far this season, but kind of returned to prominence, but did pick up a knock towards the end. Dendoncker, of course, didn't emerge for the second half, and then Renato Seri had a brilliant debut, but it's a case of still just assessing them in the coming days now ahead of the trip to Turf Moor. I mean, asked about both of them to Nuno, and yeah, it's just a case of that. I think, not strictly saying names, that it sounds like at least one of them has missed one or two sessions, and hopefully integrating them back in, getting a bit of minutes in them on the training ground ahead of the game. So the fitness of those is important. I mean, Ottesewi did brilliantly in stepping in for Dendoncker, but we've got to still be a bit careful and not expect too much of him too soon, whether he's ready to be a surefire starter in the Premier League yet. But yeah, Dendoncker and Bolly, fingers crossed. It doesn't sound too serious. It's just a little bit touch and go, but hopefully Wolves will have a bit of luck on their side with those two.
Yeah, hopefully they will. But Joe, I'm gonna kind of drop you in a little bit and ask you, if, for example, Leander Dendoncker isn't fit, who would you go for? Would you risk a youngster like Ottesewi against a team like Burnley, or would you maybe consider moving Sace into that midfield and then having some like Kilman there?
I think I probably would go with him. I would. I think the big thing that struck me about him was his physicality and the sheer physical presence that he brought to the team, and touched on it already in a few pieces. But it's something that we haven't necessarily seen since Alfred N'Joy in the Championship, and that you could argue that's a player that Wolves never really replaced. Of course, Dendoncker is a physical type as well, but his game is more on pure athleticism and running ability and getting about the park, as where Ottesewi was really kind of aerially commanding and strong and brushing off challenges, and it was really, really good to see, really. And he seems very level-headed, very cool character, really. You didn't seem to be getting carried away by his debut. Seemed cool as a cucumber. So I think if Dendoncker is out, I don't think there was a hell of a lot wrong in that second half against Chelsea. So I would be inclined to go with that, really.
And I suppose the other question is, you've got Joao Moutinho back from suspension. Do you get him in? Do you replace Ruben Neves? I mean, there are questions to be asked there, aren't there?
Yeah, there is, and I would lean again with Neves. I mean, I still think he can do more, and I think a few fans have rightly pointed out that he's still got to contribute a bit more going forward. But I think it was a decent step from him against Chelsea. I think there were moments where he was playing those raking crossfield passes like he has done in the past, and there were flashes of the real Neves, if you like. I don't think he's still quite there yet, but I think the best way to get that and get that real Neves back, if you like, is with games and with confidence. So again, Moutinho, his sending off against Villa was harsh, but that's part and parcel of football. And I'll personally, I'd go for Neves at least.
All right, then, mate. Hit me with a prediction to finish up the video, as always.
I think like Wolves will come out on top. I think hopefully stop the rot a bit at Turf Moor. I mean, they've had some difficult results there in recent years, losing 2-0 a couple of seasons back, and then that 1-1 draw, which was really kind of reflect upon as a difference maker in getting Europe at the end of last season. Well, in not getting Europe. So I think the Burnley won, really. And I think it'd be tight. Probably just a one goal, so I'd happily take a 1-0.
Always a tough game, Joe. Enjoy it. You know where to go for all the match reaction. Expressinsa.com.